What is going on, guys? I'm pretty jacked up right now because today I have what is probably going to be a very long video. I could see it being way more than I'm willing to handle, but I'm going to do it anyway. I am going to be giving my top 25 anime characters, and I'm doing this like, you know, who is my favorite among them, not who I think is the most well-written or whatever, even though that kind of does factor in, but I always have to make that distinction when doing these kind of things for some reason. Basically, I am rating them based on how much I enjoy seeing their character on screen. So, with that being said, I think that's really all the stipulations I have to make for this. I am actually really excited not just to be making this video right now, but also to experience the comment section after it is uploaded, because I have been going around in my Discord lately and just posting like top 10 or top 5 characters or series or something in a particular genre, and people just flip their shit nonstop. If you have an even moderately unpopular opinion, you just get absolutely roasted, and I love it. I think it's really fun to debate these kind of things, so I'm super excited to see what you guys think, especially considering I have 4 characters on this list that are from a series that I think is pretty unpopular compared to how good I think it is. Lastly, before I do get into the list, if you want to see exactly all the animes I have watched, which is what I will be referencing and pulling these characters from, you can check the link in the description to my anime list, and it will show everything that I've seen and even what I score them, so have fun with that one as well. Coming in at number 25 on the list, just barely making it, we have Oikawa from Haikyuu. I was actually going to do a like top 5 or top 10 list for the Haikyuu characters, and it was going to be basically all people from Karasuno and then Oikawa at the top, and I knew that a lot of people would lose their goddamn minds if I did that, and I'm probably actually going to still do that video, except it'll only be about members from Karasuno. But I thought this was a perfect opportunity then to have Oikawa show his awesomeness. I think he is a fantastic character, most certainly my favorite in that series, which is pretty good considering how good the characters in that series is, how strong of a cast it does have. The reason I like him so much is because he has such an amazing inferiority complex. It is fleshed out so well. He ends up actually losing in the end, which I feel like a lot of the time is not what happens, like I will explain later with a character on this list. And it was really just fantastic. Every time they had a game against him, every time he was on screen, I liked everything about him. I liked how he was pretty childish all the time, the way he interacted with Kageyama. It was just brilliant. I was so sad when Season 2 ended because I knew I really wouldn't be seeing any more of him. We just got to see a little bit of him watching the final game in Season 3. Honestly, I can't do his character even remotely close to the amount of justice that Alexander can do. I'm sure you've probably heard of him. He is another YouTuber. He talks about a few different series and gets really in-depth with characters. Make sure to check out his Oikawa video. It will definitely make you like him more than you already do. And then coming in at number 24, we have the main character of the show I finished this morning, which is That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, aka Rimuru. To be honest, there's not anything especially complex about his character. I mean, the reason he really is so good is because the story surrounding him is pretty good the entire way through, and he just happens to fit into it perfectly, so he kind of just rides the hype train, right? And with that being said, I think it is very worth mentioning that I am astounded by his reaction to his ridiculous overpowered abilities that he figures out he has in the first and second episode. I mean, if I was in his position, I would just be like, okay, well, I am going to become the world dominator per se. I am going to find as many powerful monsters I can that I am slightly more powerful than, and then just absorb them as he does when they're actually evil. But no, I would not discriminate, as you know, I wouldn't think I would exactly. I would just look for powerful people and then eat them for the purpose of gaining their abilities. So I am very impressed by his restraint and his noble goals of just creating a peaceful village and then, you know, eventually a nation. Next on my list at the 23 spot, I have Sabo from One Piece. As the oldest child among my siblings, as well as the only male child of my parents, I have always had somewhat of a desire to have an older sibling as well as a brother in general, and why not put them both together in what I imagine as the greatest possible older brother ever, who is Sabo. Unlike the human equivalent of pure filth known as Luffy's other older brother, Ace, Sabo is a brother that most people would actually like to have, and I dare say he might be the perfect brother in most people's eyes. I mean, what isn't he really amazing at? He is super protective of younger brother Luffy. He has awesome abilities and new powers that we are just now seeing. He has an amazing character design, and he just acts cool all the time. I really have no problems with him. At number 22, I have Bakugo from My Hero. The first video I ever had, surprisingly, that had over 10,000 views was actually the My Hero video I made, where I talked a lot about one of its strong points being Bakugo. In my opinion, he seems to carry the series quite a bit. Basically up until after the Bakugo vs. Deku fight when I read it in the manga, and now I've seen it in the anime, I was thinking that My Hero could easily break into my top 10 favorite anime and maybe even something like top 5. But since then, he's gotten so little action and screen time that I really have had a tough time keeping up with the series, and I think I'm like 15 or 20 chapters behind right now. In the same way I was talking about Oikawa, Bakugo has a ridiculous inferiority complex, except that it's a little bit different because he's actually quite extraordinary himself, and he's been amazing in comparison to everyone his whole life. However, now the person that he thought was weakest is actually showing to be more powerful than him, so it creates a very interesting dynamic between the two, and we get to see an amazing amount of character out of him. Next up on my list at the number 21 spot, and this is the exact point from here and after that shit is going to hit the fan in my comment section. I have Lupus Regina from Overlord. I think that Overlord is an extremely underrated show. I can't believe how bad it does on my anime list and just with people I talk to in general. I mean, it is like around an 8, but I don't think that's good enough, honestly. I would say Overlord may very well have the strongest cast out of any show I've ever seen. It's like every single character in Nazarick is super interesting, super fun to watch. It's just very fun to watch these people, and she is just one of the better versions of all of the other characters, and there's more that will be on this list as well. Her interactions with Carne Village are very fun to watch, considering that while she doesn't really particularly like or dislike humans, she is supposed to be some kind of sadist, so she kind of wants to see them be destroyed, although Ainz has given her the mission of basically making sure that the village is okay, or at the very least very specific people, and that probably would include others as well, because those people would be protecting those 4 important people. So it's pretty fun to watch how she kind of just acts super silly all the time, plays along with the whole, yeah, I'm actually here to protect you, but I really kind of want to see you kill. It's pretty fun to watch. Next up on this list at the number 20 spot, and we got another one, guys. We got another Overlord character. I have Nabe. She is the character in Overlord that is responsible for getting me more hooked than any other in the first season, that really made me want to just power through that show. When she went out with Ainz to start going on missions and working for the guild, I thought that she was just the funniest character. Unlike Lupus, she actually despises humans. Lupus is more just neutral towards them. She actually despises them, just considers them trash, calls them all of these hilarious, ridiculous names all the time to their faces, and it's pretty funny considering that they also believe that her and Ainz are humans. The thing about her character that is the most interesting is her interactions with humans. It is so funny to watch all the time. I think it's just absolutely hilarious. Specific times like when she refers to humans as lower life forms, and she just looks disgusted when the magical guy thinks that he is more powerful than her just because he has summoned these awesome dragons that can nullify level 6 magic and whatnot, and he's just like talking shit, and she just is so disgusted because she knows how easily she could beat him. However, she is not really allowed to at this point because she's not supposed to use magic. She's just supposed to use basically a sword, which she's actually amazingly effective with and might have been able to beat him after some amount of time. But then, of course, once Ainz gives the order, she just absolutely annihilates him, one-shots both him and his dragons. It was fantastic. Coming in at number 19, I have Escanor from the 7 Deadly Sins. This one's gonna be really quick. I don't actually have that much to say about Escanor and his character. It's all fine. I have no problem with it. It's good to say the least. But the most important thing that gets him this high up on my list is that he is just the biggest hype train I've ever seen out of any character. That includes every character on this list. As far as the amount of hype that any character brings to the table, I personally believe that this guy is number one, and no one even comes close, at least as far as I've seen in anime. Then moving on to the number 18th spot, here we go, boys, we got another Overlord one. I have Sabas. Sabas is able to overtake Nabe's spot at number 20 and even Escanor at 19 because he is the main focus, basically, of the supporting characters in the second season of Overlord, and he is absolutely amazing throughout the entire time. He is basically one of the only important members of Nazarick that actually has positive karma, which isn't something that's explained in the show, but I've looked on the wiki and stuff, and I've kind of looked into what that means. Basically, he is not evil like every other person in Nazarick is, and what really that means, I'm not entirely sure. But it is quite interesting considering he is 100% loyal to Ainz. I mean, the fact how quickly he was going to kill Suare after everything he had gone through to get her back, he was willing to just one-shot her right in front of Ainz, no question. Well, there was a little bit of hesitation. He was like, wait, really? Like, we're doing this? And then as soon as Ainz was like, yep, send it, he was sending it until he was stopped, of course. So that was very cool. All I can say for Sabas is if I ever rise to power and I have an extraordinary amount of wealth, someone like him is exactly who I'm going to want to have as a butler. Coming in at number 17, I have Saitama from One Punch Man. Considering that I give One Punch Man a 10 on my anime list, of course Saitama had to be somewhere on this list considering he is clearly the best character in that series. I mean, he really makes the entire thing. No one else really matters. They're all just there to have some kind of interactions with Saitama because he is everything in that show. He is so hilarious. The way he is nonchalant about everything, doesn't really seem to understand anything that's actually going on around him. It's amazing. The fact that he, and prepare yourselves for this one, boys, here comes the bombshell, might be stronger than Goku, and doesn't even really seem to realize how large of a gap there is between him and every other character in the series, makes for a lot of hilarious interactions, especially considering that he's not the only one that doesn't realize this. The only person that really seems to realize it is Genos, and maybe the old man. I don't even know that. I know he has some kind of indication, but it's not like he actually saw him defeat Boros or anything. So it's pretty hard to say if anyone, including Saitama, even really understands how powerful he is, and that's why it's so funny, because everyone basically treats him like shit, and it's not like he has a problem with that. I think most of the time he doesn't even realize that that's what's happening. Coming in at number 16, I have L from Death Note. L is actually pretty similar to Saitama in the sense that he is so overpowered that he can't really properly interact with his environment. It's just like he's on such a different level that, well, he's on a different level, so it's hard to do anything with those below him. Saitama, of course, is in the physical sense like this, and L is in the mental and, I guess, maybe on a lower level, socially speaking. From the first moment we see him, he's wearing no socks, he has ridiculous hair, he looks like he's never slept in maybe his entire life. The way he holds his phone is ridiculous. The way that he talks to all of these really important detectives, it was just amazing from the get-go. And then he, of course, just makes all these power moves non-stop. He's playing 5D chess with Light throughout the entire series, who is pretty much a super genius. Not just did he, when realizing the gravity of the case he was working on, finally come out of the shadows and reveal himself to the public eye, even if it wasn't really the public eye, it was just some detectives in Japan. It was very critical there for him to do that, and then he also took it to the next level and revealed himself to who he believed was the prime suspect, which he was correct about, and the way he did it was just amazing. It took me aback, it took Light aback, I think it even took L himself back. I don't think he knew what he was doing until it did it, and I was like, holy shit, I just did that. Hell yeah. This guy was probably in my top 3 favorite characters for a long time until I started watching a lot more anime. At the number 15 spot, I have Okabe from Steins Gate. While Steins Gate is also famous for its amazingly strong cast, Okabe stands at the middle of it, the center of attention, the thing that unites all of these great characters. He has a hilarious personality. It is so funny to watch him. The thing he's able to do in his own series is he makes the watcher, at least in my perspective, feel like they're actually there, if they are a lab member themselves. That's how I felt. I felt like when I was watching him do his just ridiculous mad scientist things, that I was sitting on the couch with them watching this all go down, like we were all buddies having a good time. And it's just a funny thing to watch. I really wish that I could meet a person like that in real life. I wonder what that would be like. If somebody acted like that in real life, I wonder if I'd be like, okay, this person's an idiot, I'm probably gonna try and avoid them. Or would I actually enjoy it? I'm not really sure. I want to know though. So I hope that one day maybe I do meet somebody that does act like that. Coming in at number 14, I have Itachi Uchiha from Naruto. I mean, do I even really need to explain myself on this one? I think most people would agree that he had to be somewhere on this list. This guy, when you find out everything after he is killed by Sasuke, if that's what you would even call it, the information dump about Itachi and his backstory and his true motives was so unbelievable. It was probably the greatest scene I had ever seen in any anime at the time. In all fairness, I believe the only ones I had ever seen were Season 1 of Attack on Titan and Naruto, so that's not saying too much. But that probably lasted for at least 10 other animes I watched. The one that probably trumped it would be the final scene of Code Geass, but come on, I think you get what I'm saying. Itachi is an amazing character. When that all happened, it changed the game completely. It didn't just change my opinion on Itachi, but the entire series, because he was so crucial to the plot. You could actually probably argue that he counts for 2 characters in Naruto, considering he is himself, as well as probably Sasuke, considering that both before and after he is killed, he is the reason that Sasuke makes every decision that he makes. So, you know, he's basically a double character. He was going to be high up on this list. At the number 13th spot, we are getting into Hunter x Hunter territory with Meruem. Meruem gives us so many perspectives as to what it could look like for somebody to be so overpowered that they could probably kill any other person in existence, at least as far as themselves and the rest of the world knows. He goes from being the ultimate evil, even trying to kill his own most loyal subordinates, to gaining just a small amount of compassion hours at a time, to then losing all of his memories and kind of reverting back to how he was, but with more of an open mind per se, to then regaining them and having one of the greatest character deaths I've ever seen. His relationship with Komugi was nothing short of a masterpiece, and it really is amazing to me every time I think about it, considering when Komugi was first introduced, I was so put off by her character. I thought she was just a slob, and I didn't really understand exactly the purpose of all of that until a rewatch or maybe just looking back on it. But that relationship is so good. It could be one of the best in Hunter x Hunter, at least as far as the anime goes, because I haven't seen the manga. I just absolutely love Meruem. And on to number 12, my final Overlord character. Yes, I did put 4 Overlord characters in this list. At number 12, I have Demiurge. Demiurge's loyalty is one of the most outlandish I've seen ever. It just seems to know no bounds, which is crazy considering how powerful of an individual he is. Pretty much in the exact opposite of when Meruem was first born. This guy is super powerful, and he doesn't have any bad intentions as far as other people go. His only real purpose is to serve Ainz, which, you know, makes sense, I guess, because Ainz is probably more powerful than him. However, the amount of loyalty and just worshipping is so crazy to see from somebody of this power level. It's something I've never seen before, except I have because that's how everyone in Overlord is. But the way he does it is particularly special to me. It is not an exaggeration to say that the most joy he could possibly get from doing anything is just receiving praise from Ainz, and his tail will wag to prove that. He is a tactical genius far beyond anyone in Nazarick, including and maybe even especially Ainz, and basically is the reason for all of the world domination that's actually going on. Even though he claims that, of course, Ainz is the one coming up with all these plans, and he just was able to pick up on certain indicators which don't exist. He is the real reason and way that they are going to conquer the world, and I think that that's just brilliant considering how awesome he thinks Ainz is and that he is the real mastermind. Coming in at number 11, I have Ban from the 7 Deadly Sins. I've already talked a lot about Ban in my ranking the 7 Deadly Sins video. He was my number 2 in that one, and he, among the 7 Deadly Sins in this list, will also be number 2. I mean, he's basically just the ultimate best friend. If I could have any best friend, I would want them to be just like him. The way that he turns on Meliodas, but feels so bad about it, he just absolutely hates himself afterwards, is crazy. He has amazing character development the entire time. He's the only real human among the 7 Deadly Sins, except for Escanor, I suppose, but I mean, he's so outrageously overpowered that he basically isn't even human anyway. There was basically no chance that he was escaping this list when I first saw the scene where he first meets Meliodas, and Meliodas basically just throws him through a massive wall, no problem. Of course, Ban doesn't really take any damage, but he was so excited to find somebody that could actually potentially do some damage to him, even if it's just going to be healed anyway. The way he just was acting like a dog that just found a bone was hilarious. I love it, and it makes me really respect his character. Moving on to the top 10. Yes, we are breaking into the top 10. At the number 10 spot, I have Pain from Naruto. Once again, I don't really think I have to say too much about this. The Pain arc is my favorite arc in all of Naruto, and he is the main reason for it. When I first watched this arc when I was in middle school, I could not wait every single week to watch the episodes. It was ridiculous how hyped up I was about Pain. His amazingly cool abilities, his awesome ideology, his whole value justice system that he's come up with. I'm not saying I necessarily agree with it, but as a kid, it was able to really get me thinking. Now I don't see it as anything really that complex, but it is still very cool, and the way that he was able to implement it into that story was awesome, and it actually pretty much resonated for the rest of the story, despite there being like 350 more episodes after his death. So I'm gonna have to say yes, he definitely was making it into my top 10. Coming in at number 9, I have Shanks from One Piece. Once again, I think this is a character that I don't have too much to say about, but for entirely different reasons. That reason basically being that we haven't seen too much of Shanks. There's not too much I can say. The only thing is that every time I do see him, it's one of the most hype scenes in the entire series, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that. He probably has the most hype scenes in the entire series on average, and with One Piece being my favorite manga of all time, he's definitely going to be making a pretty big impact on this list then. I don't think it's something that really needs to be explained anyway. I mean, come on. It's not hard to understand that Shanks is just a super cool character. The way that he acts towards other pirates, despite being a Yonko, he is just pretty friendly. He just wants to get drunk every day. I mean, that sounds like how I'd like to live, right? Just go adventuring, getting drunk every day with your friends. That's the damn dream, if I say so myself. And the number 8 spot goes to Soma from Food Wars. Considering that Food Wars is my 3rd favorite anime ever under Attack on Titan and Hunter x Hunter, and everyone in that series is really not amazingly interesting. I'm not saying they're bad, but they're nothing special. Soma has to carry the entire series on his back. Honestly, I'm surprised that he isn't rushed to the hospital after every episode from his spine breaking in half from carrying it so goddamn hard. Just like with Ban, I love a character who not just can't back down from every challenge, but just seeks them out as much as possible. And unlike certain characters like Ace or something ridiculous, I like that he doesn't just go in there and try and brute force everything. When he makes these challenges, there's no way of winning. He really tries to be as creative as possible and evolve. He doesn't go in there and say, oh, well, you know what, I'm just gonna kick this guy's ass. No. He realizes what he's up against, and he realizes that right here and right now, he needs to evolve. And that is such an awesome thing to watch him consistently do basically every single episode. Coming in at number 7, my final 7 Deadly Sins character, I have Meliodas. Now, I said earlier that Ban, in my opinion, is basically the perfect best friend. That is what I would want my best friend to be like. However, in my opinion, Meliodas is the perfect person, I guess, the perfect guy. He's the type of person that I want to be. When Bond does everything in his power to kill him, he basically is just like, all right, hang on, we got some shit going on, let's deal with this later, you know, whatever. And then when it all blows over and Bond kind of realizes that he was being stupid, and he feels like Meliodas should be angry with him since, you know, Bond tried killing him, Meliodas is like, what are you talking about? Like, come on, have a beer. It's just amazing. He is the captain of the 7 deadly sins, and no one would ever question him having that role. He is super powerful, has flashy moves, he's very fun to watch, very entertaining. There's not too much to say about the guy. He's just the perfect main character for that series, and it's one of my favorite series ever, so it's not too much of a surprise that he's going to be high up on this list, especially considering 7 Deadly Sins has one of the best casts of main characters ever. Moving on to the number 6 slot, and this is the one that is probably going to get me more shit than anything, surprisingly, considering I have 4 Overlord characters on here. But I have, from Hunter x Hunter, my favorite character in that series, Jing. I said that Jing was my favorite Hunter x Hunter character in my Discord, and it caused quite a amount of tantrums from people in it, just completely flaming me. And they, you know, said I had to give some kind of reasonable explanation for something so stupid, and basically my reasoning for this is, and again, this isn't going to make me look any better, but as far as characters in anime goes for me that I've seen, I would say that if there's anyone I can relate to, Jing would be the one I can most. Except when we're talking about me dealing with my friends, I would consider myself the most selfish person I know on a personal level, and even within my group of friends, I do tend to act pretty selfishly. In my life, there are a lot of things that I want to do, and I'm going to do them no matter what it takes. Of course, I'm not saying I'm going to kill somebody or something. I'm not going to do anything evil to accomplish my goals, but I'm just going to work until I get to where I want to be, and I'm even going to force my friends to be there by my side when I do so. Very similar to how Jing is in Hunter x Hunter. So that's really all I have to say as far as Jing goes. I mean, I just have never had any character I can really relate to in this kind of way. All these people that I've listed so far, and all other characters in anime really, I think that they're awesome, I think that they're super cool, some of them I want to be like. But as far as the way I am right now, and really have been my whole life, I really identify with Jing. Now we're breaking into the top 5, the big super FronkyYT characters. At the number 5 spot, we have Koro Sensei from Assassination Classroom. Honestly, I don't really want to get too much into my opinion on this because the whole thing here is that a lot of people have not actually seen this show. A good amount of people have, of course, but a lot haven't, and I really wish more did. And if I really get into why he's such a good character, it would spoil so much of it, especially the ending. So I'm just, despite it being a top 5 one that should be pretty important, I'm just going to leave it at that. This guy's my top 5. I really would encourage all of you to watch the show if you have not. Make sure you make it all the way to the end, and I think that he will leave a huge impact on you, so I do recommend that. Coming in at number 4, I have Reiner from Attack on Titan. Up until the Shiganshina arc, which is the arc that is about to come out in the anime and I'm super excited for, Reiner was my favorite character in Attack on Titan and possibly my favorite character in all of anime. The hype has kind of died down and I'm going to put him at 4 for now, but he is an absolutely brilliant, super well-written character in that series. He fits it absolutely perfectly. He plays the role that he needs to a T. And on top of that, he was the main focus of what I consider personally to be the greatest scene in anime I have ever seen. I don't really know how to explain what this means because I don't really know what it means either. But basically, I started this YouTube channel about 3 days after the episode where Reiner reveals his whole thing and he has what I consider the greatest scene in anime history. And for some reason, whenever I was thinking about YouTube and videos I should make and just kind of grinding through it, I would always think of that scene and just the intensity of it all. It just kind of stuck with me, and I feel like it is responsible for being some kind of foundation of this channel. I know that doesn't really make any sense at all, but that's kind of my explanation without getting into spoiler territory, which is something I'm most certainly not going to do because Attack on Titan is my favorite anime ever, and I don't want to spoil anything for anyone because I want everyone to watch this series because it's so good. And a lot of the time, it has some of the biggest spoilers ever, so I'm going to keep away from that. Make sure you watch the next arc and you will like him even more. Coming in at the number 3 spot, you already knew he was going to be on this list. I, of course, have Dofi from One Piece. I've already made multiple videos talking about how awesome Dofi is because he is my favorite character in One Piece, and One Piece is my favorite manga, so he's an important character to me, to say the least. I mean, he just is so unbelievably rageful. He basically is the ultimate embodiment of hatred, which is a very fun thing to see and thing to explore, especially since I think a lot of people don't really understand what hatred actually is. At the end of the day, hatred really all can be boiled down to another word for revenge, and more or less just a less specific version of it. With that being said, Dofi's reason for his enormous amount of hatred is awesome, because it is just that he was stripped of the ultimate power, so he is now just reduced to a normal human, unlike what he was in the past. So he wants to just destroy the world. He wants to destroy the entire world, because if he can't have it, then nobody can, basically, right? I don't, really identify with a character like this. I would never act like that. However, I can say that it is a very entertaining thing to watch. I love the way that he is just constantly smiling, the most devious smile ever. He is so confident and just excited to be doing anything because he knows how fucking awesome he is. His character design is super cool. His voice actor is awesome, and it's like his only role ever that he really got into. It's weird, but it's amazing. And he's just a fantastic character. I go more into detail in all my other videos I've done about him, so go ahead and check out those if you want more. Coming in at the number 2 spot, and this is a total middle fingers to all the people that say Attack on Titan doesn't have good characters, because that's just some of the stupidest shit I've ever heard in my life. I have Erwin Smith. This guy is the human representation of the entire main theme of Attack on Titan, which is basically, and it's said multiple times throughout the series, that in order to overcome a monster, you must become a monster yourself. He becomes basically the biggest monster in the series, despite being one of the only main characters that isn't a Titan, because he takes over the Survey Corps, and he is constantly throwing people's lives away to fulfill his goals and his ambitions, and he does feel bad about it, but at the same time, he doesn't really, because he knows that this is something that needs to be done, and it's something that he wants to be done. Would I say he's a good person? No. Would I say he's a bad person? I mean, his motives were a little bad, shady, maybe even. However, at the end of the day, it also is something that needed to be done. So maybe if it wasn't that important, he wouldn't have acted that way. I don't really know, but I don't really care anyway, because that's not the point. As you can see by all of my top characters, I generally don't gear towards people that are necessarily good. I think that the more interesting characters tend to be antagonists, and, well, I guess he's not an antagonist, but he's kind of a bad guy, I guess, considering he kills so many good people. Once again, we do get to see a lot of awesome stuff from him in the anime in Season 1, Season 2, the first part of Season 3 so far. He's just making power plays non-stop. He gets his arm chomped off. He still just gives out commands, inspiring soldiers like the crazy man he is. He's brilliant even then. However, in the second part of Season 3 that we're about to be getting, that is when his character truly shines, when we find his true motives, and he is just amazing. So I don't want to spoil that entirely, but again, make sure you're watching Attack on Titan here. And last, but of course not least, my favorite character in all of anime that I've seen, and I'm gonna be real, I was honestly pretty shocked by this. I knew that I liked this character a lot, but it wasn't until I really sat down and broke every one of these characters down and just tried to play around with my list that I got him the number 1 spot. I'm surprised by it, but I really do love this character so much. I am talking about Obito Uchiha from Naruto. At the end of the day, he basically has the exact same philosophies and goals as Pain did, so of course there are going to be similarities there, and Pain's super high on my list, so it makes sense that Obito would be as well. However, it's the way that Obito came to these conclusions and the way that he conducts himself that puts him so high on the list for me. So many people have this ridiculous indication that the entire reason that he started this war and is trying to basically end or save, depending on how you look at it, the world, is because Rin died. And it's just, I really think that people that believe that seem to lack a degree of reading comprehension, because that's just not the case at all. Of course, that was basically the straw that broke the camel's back, but I mean, there was so much leading up to that. It's insane. Swagkage made a video about this. I think he was talking with Clyde the Weeaboo. I believe that was who he had on with him. He talks about how that is just not the case. He did not start this war entirely because of Rin. That was just the final straw. And, I mean, what do you really expect from a child soldier? Through his desire and endless ambition to save or destroy the world, he becomes this mastermind that's super overpowered, has these awesome abilities, is very mysterious. He makes the greatest crime organization ever. It's just awesome. I mean, the Akatsuki are, like, it's the coolest crime organization ever, probably, at least as far as I've seen. They're all super cool characters, very mysterious, and he's the one that got them all together and is probably the most powerful of them all. It's awesome. I think that given the experiences that he had gone through, basically 99% or more of humans would do the exact same things that he has done if they were in a similar position, like being an Uchiha with a really overpowered Mangekyo Sharingan. I think that everyone would fall into the same kind of philosophy and ideologies, and they would act basically exactly like him. So I don't understand why people seem to dislike him. I think he's a brilliant villain, in my opinion, the best I've ever seen, and he was my favorite character in that series. So that wraps up my top 25 anime characters that I have seen so far. I apologize if you think I kind of brushed over a little bit of the characters. I didn't give too much substance to my explanations, but it was pretty clear to me that this video is going to take a long-ass time, considering it would probably take more than a minute on average to talk about each character, and there's 25 characters on this list. So yeah, I tried to, you know, be pretty specific and just get to the point on all of them. If you enjoyed this video, remember to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Remember to leave me a comment letting me know what you thought about this video and my opinions in it. I'm super excited. I think that it's going to be a massive war in the comments, either just between me and you guys, or maybe eventually you guys each other. Yeah, right? You guys maybe will disagree with each other, I would imagine. I'm assuming a lot of people might put in their own lists, which I am super excited to see. I love seeing people's lists. Some of them I am pretty I get confused, and I'm very confused by some people's list. For example, you know, a member of my Discord, his favorite character in One Piece is Dragon, despite the fact that we don't know anything really about Dragon. We've seen nothing as far as his personality traits for the most part. I mean, there's been the smallest glimpse into it, so I just don't even know what that means, really, and I see stuff like that a lot, but you know, whatever. I am super excited to see your guys' list. Speaking of the Discord, if you have not already, make sure to check the link in the description for the link to the Discord and join up with us. It is an awesome place. We have a lot of fun talking about different anime and manga and whatnot, or One Piece specifically, if that's what you're here for. I don't really mind. You don't have to use the VC. There's tons of text channels that you can talk in, and I'm even in there too, so you can DM me if you want. Maybe post some lists. We post lists all the time. I like posting lists. It's really fun. We have a good time in the Discord. I'd like to see more of you there. I hope you guys have an excellent rest of your day, a great end to your weekend, and I'll talk to you guys soon.